All right, Coulworld 3. Dylan,
Yes.
how are you today?
Very well. How about you?
Pretty good. I think we might be giving the impression that our viewers and listeners, that we might be alcoholic because we've cracked beers pretty much every time we've done a podcast. But it really loosens you up, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And there's nothing better than having a beer with a mate and talking some shit. So I feel like it goes together well.
I was thinking about this earlier. I was like, do we do it too much? But then I realised, I swear, there's something about just having a sip of beer that makes you open up a little bit. Yeah, in more ways than one.
It really loosens the sphincter, as you would.
That's not what I meant. No, but there is, like, I was thinking about it, like, I think it's just like a psychological switch that hits. Like, as soon as you have a beer, you're like, oh, I'm in a safe place now.
You relax.
I can be vulnerable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you ever want to get any info out of me, just give me half a Heineken and I'll be a truth slut.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think it's a big part of Australian culture, having a beer. I mean, I don't know what you and your dad are like, but my dad likes to have a beer with me, especially now that I'm older as well. So, I think it's just Australian culture to crack a beer with your mate.
True. Yeah, I probably haven't done a lot of it lately, which is not a bad thing, I guess, health-wise. But
yeah.
Dad's the sort of guy who, he used to have a beer every night, but these days he'll just have it very, very sparingly.
Yeah.
Just for health reasons. So,
yeah, sure.
But it is a nice luxury. I'm definitely more alcoholic since we moved in together than...
Fridays and Saturdays are pretty much a standard.
The danger night.
Yeah. It's either going to be 2 or 3 nice quiet beers or we're blowing the roof off.
I'm glad you said the roof off. Oh, yeah, cool. Anyway, seamless segue into Potty 3. Actually, Dylan, how did you feel about Potty 2? I do like to ask how you feel about them because you're still breaking your podcast hymen a little bit here. That's just gross. No, but how did you feel about it? Because I thought it was a bit of a banger.
No, I liked it. I really enjoyed podcast 2. I thought it was a banger as well. I watched the whole video in its entirety and I really enjoyed it. Thought we carried it well. Thought the conversation was real. It was deeper than I think we were both expecting to go, but it was very real, which I think was the whole point of this. So I liked it. How did you find it?
Yeah, good. The views will be a lot less on it. I think that's just what happens when, like, the first one gets a lot of views because people are interested.
Yeah.
The second one got less views, but I think I had probably more people message me saying they really enjoyed it.
Yeah, cool.
So I think, good progress.
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I'm not too concerned. I mean, we're not too concerned about the views as of right now. Obviously, we are watching it, as you would when you put any sort of content out. But, I think we're just focusing on making good videos, having good chats, and I think all that stuff will come later. We're just trying to build up the library first, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I think we've made a fairly good start. Yeah, like you said, I didn't expect it to be, like, quite as open and vulnerable as it was, but I think that is the effect of the old Heinekens here, or whatever it was we were drinking last week.
What were we having that night?
I don't know. Was it Furphy's the first night? The second night was beers you bought?
Yeah, I can't remember. It was on special. I can't remember what it was.
Whatever the cheapest one is. Yeah.
Anyway.
Sweet. But so on the back of last week, we did, we advertised on the live stream people who wanted to come up with, like, topic ideas for the potty.
Yep.
And that sort of tied in with one we wanted to do for a bit. Lessons from your 20s. So we're both 26.
Yep.
I got that right this time.
Banging question too. I love this one. This is going to be a good podcast.
Yeah. So with context, obviously we're still only just over halfway through our 20s. So still learning. Like, if you think about what we were like at 22 versus 26.
A huge difference.
So like when we're 30, it's going to be...
It's going to be massive again. Yeah. And I think that was a cool way to approach this question was... if you go back to your 20-year-old self, what were the 4 or 5 tips that you would give yourself?
True.
And that's how I sort of approached it. And so I like it. I think we both sort of ran through our points and we got some cool points. Hopefully people can take away something from this podcast. Because, speaking from experience for the last 6 years, and life does change a lot in that 6 years. I think it's kind of tricky because I feel like, say, the gap from 16 to 20 is huge. Like, really big. And I'm not sure. I think that might be the biggest gap of all. That's where you learn the most amount of stuff. That's where you really change the most. Is that 16 to 20?
Probably, yeah.
But I think even still, like, this past 6 years has still been, like, huge for me. And I think the growth that I've seen within myself is still really big. So hopefully things to come just keep growing, keep getting better.
Both, I just realised as well, when you were 16 and I was 16 and then 20, we both moved to different cities. So...
Yeah.
Because I grew up in the Middle East and you were in Geraldton and we were both in Perth. So that particularly was a big transformative kind of period, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But we'll give a little shout out to Toby, the one and only, who was the guy whose question really, like, inspired this particular podcast. He says, Going on the same tangent of some of the topic about self-growth mentally, what are some good advice/lessons you've learned through early 20 to now, especially things through like work/uni or stuff with relationships, friends, personal growth through this particular phase of life? So thanks, Toby. Really appreciate that. Good question. Helping us make some content here. So, Dill, I think we've both prepared like a few things that we've kind of thought about in terms of lessons from your 20s. Do you want to kick us off with something you'd like to impart, some wisdom?
Yeah, sure. I'll just dive straight into my number one point, which is sort of like I'm trying to think where I got this from, but I got this from a podcast, and then I sort of made it into my own, and I sort of I don't know, it was like a half an idea from someone that I've sort of carried on and I've sort of added to, and now I've just got this sort of rule, I guess, that I sort of impose and I live by, and I think it makes life a lot easier, which I think is a good thing, is simplifying life. Mm-hmm. It's so often we can get into overthinking and overanalyzing and just making things so much more complicated than they need to be. So my one is minimize your focus. So what that means is essentially don't spread yourself too thin. I think people tend to want to pick out too many things to focus on, and in return you're not investing your full amount into the certain thing, which may lead to you not getting the full success and not giving your all. Mm-hmm. So I think if you focus in on your three things, one should make you money. So you should always be passionate about your work, or try to be passionate about what you work as, or if you aren't working towards something that you are passionate about that you can do for work. The second should keep you creative. So whether that's art, music, podcast, whatever it might be. And I think the third should be keep you fit. So whether it's playing a sport, whether it's just getting into the gym, anything like that. I think if you focus in on your three things, one to make you money, one to keep you creative, and one to keep you fit, I think you can focus and put a lot of energy into each of those three things, and I think it will help simplify your life, I guess.
It is always interesting when you meet those occasional people that are just really happy sort of being where they are. They're not driving to make more money. Like, sure, they're in a dead-on job and they're not doing something else. I know it's really judgmental of me to say that, but it is interesting how some people just, particularly I guess in the country maybe, and maybe you can speak from experience being from Gero, but like I look at people in Bunbury who are like married at 24, 2 kids, got their career, don't want to move anywhere else. Like, I just can't relate to that. Yeah,
I think my dad is definitely one of those people. He wasn't really fussed on the whole career thing. He just wanted to make money so that he could spend time with his family, and that was essentially all it was.
I suppose he's at least got that value though. Like he's got something that he values and he strives towards that and puts his energy towards that. Right? He's not just like wasting his life.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to that point, I guess if you wanted to, your three things can be your three things. And I think for my dad, you might substitute money and you might put family. So I guess his three things would be family, creative, and fitness. Because he's always been fit. He's never not been fit. He's surfed his whole life. He used to be the runner for my football team, like all through juniors and even into when I was playing seniors in Geraldton. Creative, he's really into his music. And then instead of being obsessed about his money and that kind of stuff, he was just more invested into us kids. Yeah. So I guess, maybe these three things will change once you move on into life. But as for while you're in your 20s, I think they're three things that are good to focus on.
Yeah, I do think having like a creative edge or like aspect of your life is really important for like mental health and stuff as well. I've heard other people say that, but I think for me as well, up until True Footy, I did learn the guitar at like 23, but other than that, I've been pretty devoid between about 18 and 24 of actually trying to do something creatively. And I think I'm so much happier that I've got, work where I maybe don't employ the same creative sort of skills, where it's a bit more like logical. And then to come home and do something creative, I think, the balance there is really good. So I think that's pretty good advice.
And I just don't think there's anything that can replace it. I think having that creative outlet, something that can really get you thinking. And even if it's like songwriting, you can you hear so many people say that a song might have got them through a hard time. Well, generally the people that wrote that were going through that exact same hardship. And having the ability to write that out on paper and then also write it out in a formula that somehow comes through like
resonates with someone.
Yeah, and not just that, but being able to do it in a way that might rhyme or a way that is melodic and like that also gives it a certain power and a certain strength. So I'm big on the creative side as well. And then obviously the third one, fitness. I think you can't go wrong with, if you want your mind to be right, I feel like your body has to be right with you. So I think the fitness one is just as important as the other two.
True. There are so many like links to suggest like mental health and your fitness are related, right? So, yeah.
And I believe, you know, serotonin boosts when you work out, all that stuff, which is like, that's obviously super important, and that directly correlates with your mental health, is feeling good. And then I think also looking good. Like if you look good, you feel good. If you're
that's true.
If you're not happy with your appearance, like it takes a huge toll as well. So yeah, I mean that's a big one that I learnt early on, and that I definitely tried to focus in on the last like couple of years.
Yeah, okay.
So those three things, and keeping my life as simple as possible, and making sure that I invest in the things that I want to invest in, and not getting outside distractions that might pull me away from them.
I have like watched there's a guy called Matt Diavela, doesn't matter, who he's a YouTuber and a podcaster and entrepreneur and stuff like that, who is big on minimalism. So just basically,
cool.
I mean, there's extreme versions of minimalism where you literally just don't buy more than one spoon for your house or something like that.
Tiny house living, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know if I'd really like embrace that. That's not the part of it that I enjoy, but I just, the idea of not being materialistic, buying so much shit that you don't need, getting cluttered, like, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah. Cool. All right, well, I'll dive into mine, and I'm going to put the one I'm probably most passionate about first. And this is a bit of a Gary Vee-ism. Do you watch a bit of Gary Vee?
Yeah, I love Gary Vee.
So I will say this, I'll preface this by saying, like, Gary Vee gets a little bit of a bad rap, I reckon, because it's so easy to look at someone who seems like a salesman or seems like motivational speakers. People are skeptical about that sort of thing. But I mean, this guy's actually done it. But I think even though he's an entrepreneur and they're like a digital marketer and stuff like that, that's his background. I think there's a lot of powerful messages in what he says that will resonate with a lot of people. You just have to look past maybe the personality and the flamboyance of it to really get it. But basically, so much of what you do is governed by what people think of you. And I think that's a real issue for a lot of people, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah.
But deep down, I guess it's really important to understand yourself in terms of what motivates you and whether or not that has been governed by deep down what people think of you.
Yeah.
So, for instance, I see a lot of people who strive to have a really good career, not because they enjoy the path,
but just so when someone asks them, what do you do for a living?
Yes.
They can then reply with a decent answer. That makes them feel better because that person thinks they're important.
Exactly. And look, if people are really attracted to like esteem and status and stuff like that, not esteem, so like prestige and status like that, and that, like, that's cool. If that's what you want to do, then I support that. But I guess I'm referring to the specific amount of people, and maybe I felt like this, who are pursuing something that they felt obligated to try and impress other people, be it women or their parents. And I think Gary Vee's big on the parent one.
Yeah, big time.
And I guess I think I made that realization around the time I started True Footy, that I was pursuing law and commerce because it was the best thing that I could do, and I wanted my parents to think that I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
But probably the best advice I've heard him give is to have the conversation with the people you think are going to judge you. So, for instance, for me, I had a conversation with my dad about how serious I was about True Footy. And in my head, I was thinking, he's going to be like, this isn't a real career, mate. Like, pursue your law degree.
Yes.
Make the right conservative decision. But I was completely wrong. He didn't think that at all, and he was fully supportive of it. I mean, to be fair, I still finished my degree.
Yeah.
And I still work hard at my actual 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is, like, sometimes, the opinions of people don't matter, even the people that you love. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your parents think about your career. Like, you should do what you want to do.
Yep.
And secondly, sometimes your perception of what they think is going to be completely different to reality. So I don't know. I found that really powerful. And I mean, it hinges on everything I do. Every decision I make, I think, am I doing this because deep down I care about whether I'll be judged?
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, I don't know if you have this, but I'm sure a lot of people watching this can relate. You have that moment where you're like, so I've been grinding for the last few years, or I've had this moment where I'm like, I've been doing True Footy for 3 years, haven't pursued my degree yet, nowhere near like being able to buy a house. Like, fuck, what am I doing?
Yep.
But then I think, why am I asking myself that question?
Yep.
Because I'm worried what other people will think of me. And I think, like, especially coming out of a relationship, that stability's gone. So like before, when you're a long-term partner who you love, you're like, it doesn't really matter what people think. But as soon as I've gone single again, like I'm starting to care a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then it's good just to sort of check yourself and rein yourself in.
And it is a bit of societal expectations, like what was considered the norm for previous generations. So I mean, our parents, they would have got married very young and settled down really young. And then you look at the grandparents, they would have got married even younger and had kids even younger. And I think we're just coming into an age now where people are more focused in on like fulfilling their lives instead of, like getting into debt with the house that you maybe couldn't afford. And if you bought it 5 years later, like, are you really that much worse off? Like, you're not.
Yeah.
Getting married a bit later, like people aren't too stressed about that. And it's a funny that you bring up this point and the conversation that you took from that point, because then it rolls onto my next point, which is, don't make the right move, make your move.
I'm intrigued by that.
Well, it literally is again what you've just said. So, law and commerce, was that your move or was that the right move?
It's probably the right move.
So it was the right move,
yeah.
And then you'd say True Footy was your move. True Footy was the time when you said like, this isn't normal. This isn't like, you're not gonna go to school and your school counsellor is gonna say you should do a career in YouTube.
That's so true.
But then like that might be your move. That might be your passion. That might be your thing. And I believe in that. I believe in getting caught up in society's expectations, getting caught up in what people think and wanting to do the right move because it's what people consider to be the right move, instead of really focusing on what you like and what you're good at and then making your moves. Like, I guess forging your own path. Don't follow the standard paths that are the right paths. If you want, and if it's in your nature and in your personality and taking that right path just doesn't seem right for you, there's nothing wrong with taking your path, creating your different way to get to wherever you feel like you need to be.
Yeah, and 100%, like a lot of the people anyway who you're worried about judging you probably fucking don't know shit.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Like they're just people like you or I.
Yeah.
But I mean, the old adage, tying into the True Footy thing, the old adage, the cliche is like, if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. But that is so true. So like, for instance, the True Footy, I work hard at my job 9 to 5. I come home and then, not so much lately because I've talked about how I'm just like a little bit withdrawn from it because I've had other shit going on. But generally speaking, I would spend like 4 hours a night on it and I would just not feel like worn down or like it was
strenuous or anything.
Yeah, like I was genuinely doing what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. Like I wanted to do that more than play FIFA.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think the tricky part is finding out what your passion is. Yeah. That's probably the hardest thing.
And that can take your lifetime. That can literally take you to 40 years of age until you really understand. But it's hard because I also do believe in, I think people pick things, it doesn't turn out to be what they want, and then they back out and they pick something else that doesn't turn out to be what they want, and then they back out again. And I don't think that's the way to do it either. I think although making like we just said, your move and then doing the things that you want to do, I think at some point you do need to just grit your teeth and get through things. So I mean, I'm sure there was times at uni where you didn't really want to do it. There was times in my uni, and I work with my degree. There was times at my uni that I didn't want to do it. Like, you know, the unit might have been just too hard. It might have been a weird unit that I just didn't enjoy. And you sit there and think, like, is this really what I want to do? Yeah. And I think it's also those moments to then, like, put yourself down and say, like, no, like, I decided I want to do this. Like, I'm gonna go through with it. So it's a balancing act. I was going to say, it really is a balance. It's a fine art between balancing, collapsing at every hurdle, and just like pushing through the speed bumps, and then also being aware enough to be like, this generally isn't what I want to do. That is the fine art. Because I think another good piece of advice is to never feel trapped by what you're doing. Yeah. Just because you've sunk 6 years into a law degree and you've practiced for 2 years, not that I have, don't feel like you can't change your life, even if you realise you really want to. But then, like you say, it's a very good point. You don't want to go too far the other way and just have every single obstacle, because life's fucking hard. Like, the shit will pop up. Hell yeah. Obstacles pop up. There will be elements of True Footy that I fucking hate that I have to get through. And you'd really got to push through those. So it's just about self-awareness, I guess. It is. Yeah, for sure. Third point? Yeah, is it you or me? I've lost track. You can go. Actually, no, it was you. It was me? So, okay. Give me your second point. Okay, this kind of ties in, so I'll just do this, like, wrap it up really neatly. It's the second point to my first point. Do what you're passionate about. We live in an era where you can make a career out of your passion. And again, like, one of my favourite Gary V rants is, he says, if you like the Smurfs, make a fucking Smurfs blog and just make it the best fucking Smurfs blog you can, and you can make money from it. Even if it means like making 30 grand less a year or wherever it is, then
there's no reason why you can't do it. And, you know, if I do pursue True Footy as a career, the best case scenario is I'm probably going to be making a shitload less money than I would if I pursued a law degree.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that point.
And then I guess it's just a cost versus the benefits. Like, would you rather the extra money, or would you rather generally be happy and love what you do? And I feel like 9 times out of 10 people will say, I'd rather love what I do and be happy.
Yeah. I had a very privileged upbringing, and I think I've got the reverse chip on my shoulder, and I don't long to make a lot of money. You see a lot of people who come out of like financial hardships through their youth, and they're just like, I'm going to make as much money as I can. And I'm the opposite example, and maybe to a fault, where we weren't like loaded, but I've never really stressed about money.
Yeah.
So I guess growing up now as a young adult, I'm not thinking about how can I maximize the wealth. I'm just thinking I want to do something that I enjoy doing.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think I probably am more money driven.
Yeah.
My parents definitely. My parents didn't graduate high school. They didn't go to uni. They don't have degrees. They don't have any trades or anything like that. So they definitely would have those like dead end jobs that people talk about. But they made it work. And when me and my brother were growing up, it was like hard. They did struggle a bit. And then as we got older, and my brother left, and then I left, and now I have a younger sister. They're a lot better now. Like they're really good with their money now, and they're well off now. So my dad is just about to turn 60, and he can retire. He could retire right now if he wanted to.
Yeah.
He's done really well in investing in his superannuation, and he's done well enough that he has money that he could retire on and live out and not need what's that thing called? Pension.
Yeah.
He doesn't need a pension. So he's done it well, where he's worked hard enough for a number of years, 30, 35 years, 40 years, and he's invested enough that he doesn't need a pension right now. Well, my third point, I guess it ties into a lot of things that we've already mentioned it already, but look after your mind, so mental health. I'm not sure if you found this, but the older I get, the more like strain my mental health will go through. So
really?
when I don't know if it was because I was younger, I was more naive. Like, you just don't consider a lot of things. The older you get, the heavier, I guess, like decisions weigh on you, or things that you might have said something to someone and that will weigh on you because you could have acted better in that situation. I just feel like the older I got, the more I needed to be aware of my mental health, and the more I needed to look after my mental health. I couldn't just be naive and just flow through life like I used to when I was 16, whatever. So I think that's a big point as well.
Have you had a time in your life where your mental health was pretty shit?
Yeah, so 2 times. My biggest thing is I hate the feeling of being stagnant, which I guess ties into feeling trapped. So the very day that I finished my carpentry apprenticeship, just woke up and hated it.
Really?
Because I completed the goal, and the goal wasn't to be a carpenter. The goal was like, this is a step in a direction that I wanted to take.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wanted to be in property construction, somewhere in that. I just didn't know where, and I took a carpentry apprenticeship for purely the fact that I wanted the knowledge of a carpenter, but I didn't want to be a carpenter. I just liked what they knew. I thought being able to walk into any building, any house, and know how it's built, and know the fundamentals of where the load is bearing and what goes up first, and the process that's behind it all. I thought that was cool and that was interesting, so I wanted to learn that. But yeah, once I finished my apprenticeship, it was sort of like I'd done that, and I was really ready for that next stage. I mean, the day after I finished my apprenticeship, I moved to Perth, and I was looking at universities here.
Okay.
The second time was the very next day after I graduated the uni.
Really, same concept?
Exact same concept. So I finished the goal, I did what I did, and I didn't have a graduate job to walk straight into, and I just felt trapped and stuck again. And so those were the 2 times that I really... And the latter affected me more, which again I think ties into what I was saying before. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older and I'm more conscious of these sort of things now, that I really need to like check myself and focus on my mental health. But those 2 times, especially the latter, that was real rough.
How did you come out the other side of those moments?
Well, so when I finished uni, I for the last year of my degree, I was like applying for jobs and just not getting a look in for anything. Like, for a good reason, I suppose. Like, a lot of jobs out there were they were entry-level jobs, but for some reason, an entry-level job requires work experience, which makes, like, no sense to me at all. So, like, I was applying for these jobs, and they wanted, like, 2 to 3 years work experience. I was, like, a fresh uni student. Like, when I first started applying for them, I hadn't even graduated yet. So, what I did was I got a job as a carpenter and sort of worked through that because I knew that was the easiest way to make myself some good money. I kept my uni job, which was working at Bunnings, and I just worked those 2 jobs. So I would start at 7 in the morning and I'd finish at 3 doing my carpentry stuff, and then I'd run to Bunnings and I'd start at Bunnings at 4, and then I'd probably work till about 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I would do that basically every day. And I just did that, and I just like I said, if I'm not doing like the thing that I'm passionate about, if I'm not doing the thing that my end goal, and I know this period is only going to be a short period, and I'm just going to get as much money as I can. Like, I don't care if it burns me out. I don't care if I hate it. Like, if I'm not doing my goal, if I'm not on the path that I really want to be on, then the alternative is just make as much money as you can. So that if an opportunity arises, i.e. a job in Melbourne comes up and I have an opportunity to go there, I want to be able to go like, done. Like, here's money. I've just been working 2 jobs for the last 6 months. I can pay whatever you need me to pay. The other alternatives was I was going to give myself a year. So if I didn't have my graduate job in a year, I was going to take a year off and I was going to go to America. Thankfully, I didn't. So I got my graduate job after 9 months. And thankfully, I didn't because, as we were all aware, the February that followed was COVID. And so I would have been in America if I didn't get my graduate job.
Fuck.
So a lot of what ifs.
Yeah.
But it's funny how it all played out. And now I sit here now and I'm grateful for how it all played out. I mean, I'm in a much better position than I could have ever been. All those jobs that I applied for previously were nothing compared to the job that I'm in now. Like they were average jobs. I was just desperate. So it's another point that I've got here, but I just backed my work ethic, and I was like, if I'm not doing the thing that I'm passionate about, I'm just going to get money and I'm going to rely on my work ethic, and hopefully someone along the line will see that and appreciate that. And that's what I did.
That's cool. Is there certain techniques that you do, like day to day, to look after your mental health? Or?
Yeah, so I'm big on my showers. So in my showers, I meditate. Yeah.
Oh, really? You're into meditation?
Meditate. So in the mornings, I like to go through and just sort of like, I guess, just think about what my plan for the day is, like how I see my day playing out, and just getting myself ready to like take on the challenges that I see happening in the day. And generally, like, a lot of this stuff is work related, and generally I'll know what I'm about to do for the day. Like, not very often do I go into a day completely unaware of what's about to happen at work. Like, generally I'll know the job that I'm on. Generally I'll know the gist of like what I'm about to do. So preparing myself like mentally for that. And then I definitely like coming home and like showering again at night. I like to take a minute and like breathe deeply. I have like some essential oils that I put in the shower that like help with like mist up, and they like I like eucalyptus.
Yeah,
I use like eucalyptus oil a lot, and just like take a moment, take a couple of breaths, and just like really let things out, and like not just like bottle it up. And I think the other thing is not being afraid of the emotions, not being afraid of like actually fully diving in and like really asking yourself like why does this hurt me? Like why does this affect me?
Yeah.
Instead of acting like it's not there.
Yeah.
I mean, even like small things, like if you find out like a person, not like a girlfriend or anything, but just like a guy, if you find out like apparently he doesn't like you, you've never done anything to him in your life, but for some reason that will like hurt me, and I'll be like, well, like, and then I'll find myself trying hard to like be funny around him and like enforcing it. Yeah. And then I think it's important to just be like, why does this really affect me? Like why do I have this absolute need for everyone to like me? Like, it's not going to be the reality of it. And just So 2 points: taking your time and really having your breath, and just whatever that is. Mine is showers and essential oils and all that stuff. And the second is not being afraid to dive into why something might hurt you.
I really like your point about trying to work out what it is that bothered you. Like, this happens to me all the time, and I've got like not at the moment, but I have had like anxiety in the past. And like sometimes I'll just be at work or something and I'll just have this massive pang of anxiety, and that doesn't happen randomly. And then I have to think, what was it in the last 30 seconds that's triggered that? And really trying to deep dive it and work out what it was so that I can work out if it's actually important or not. Yeah. But sometimes I don't know. I think being able to psychoanalyze yourself and try and isolate what it is that bothers you and why, and being honest with yourself about why it is you feel that way. I think that's really important. I suppose speaking a bit cryptically here, but like, I don't know. I think that's a really interesting point as well. And
I think it helps with not making the same mistakes over and over again. So if it's something that you've done and then it's 24 hours later and you're feeling shitty about it, and then just sort of swiping it off and not really giving it thought, or alternatively diving in and saying like, why do I feel shit right now? Like, why am I feeling shitty? And it's okay. Well, it's because I said this thing, and then going into it like, okay, well, next time I'm not going to say things like that. Next time I'm going to be more aware. And then it helps learn your lessons so that next time you're not making these same silly mistakes that make you feel shit.
Yeah, that's true. And to use a better example, because I just made my point really clumsily, but to use your example about, say, the guy that doesn't like you and you haven't done anything to him, like being honest with you enough to yourself to realize or to look and be like, I'm bothered that he doesn't like me because I kind of have an irrational need to be liked, and just being self-aware enough to realize that, and then either saying, what can I do to rub this guy better. That's
I know because
I was trying to do the opposite
the wrong way.
Yeah, I was trying to reverse engineer.
I don't know if it works that way.
It doesn't. No, I want to rub in the right way. No, I guess what I mean is work out either it's something I've actually done wrong, or question: should I care that he doesn't like me? That's really the point I was trying to make.
Also being aware that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like, there are going to be people that aren't going to get along with you, and being okay with that. And that also takes, again, that deep dive within yourself to like really think, like, have I done anything to this person? Like, what have I acted wrongly when they're around? And if the answers are no, then you should be able to put it aside and say, I'm just not that person's cup of tea. That's fine. I have so many friends that do like me and do appreciate the person that I am. Let me focus on that. Yeah,
and it's a good way to be, because if you're actually questioning whether I've done something to this person, it actually makes you a better person as well. Yeah. Maybe you have done something that you didn't realise would affect that person. Yeah. But often it could be just that someone's jealous. Yeah. That's generally why people hate people for no reason.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Yeah.
Very true.
Yeah.
What was your third point?
My point is actually related to yours a bit about the whole mental health thing. And while we just talked about being psychoanalytical about yourself and being self-aware, I do think there's people like me who might be overthinkers, and my advice is to try not to be too introspective. Yeah. So I've had like issues when I was younger, like around 21 to 22, probably about 18 months. I had a real rough period with my mental health. Yep. And for me, that was very self-esteem driven. Yep. And we talked about it in a little podcast. I think I just had issues when I was a kid. Not serious issues, like I was just a kid that didn't really rate himself. Yeah. Like I just constantly underrate myself. And I think that's another good piece of advice is, I reckon the best way to be is to overrate yourself by 10%, to think that you're always good enough to do stuff without actually having the ego. Yeah. But yeah, we'll touch on that. But I guess the worst thing you can do as it starts pissing down here in Melville is to be too psychoanalytical. And for instance, I'm obviously going through this breakup. The hardest parts of that is like when I'm alone. So, and I'm not talking, I don't want to paint a picture of me being some like basket case. It's just like, I feel shit. Yeah. But when you're home watching TV, like I'm just not thinking about it. Yeah, yeah. You know, I'm not thinking about all the things that I did wrong. Yeah. Or, in the past, I'm not thinking about why, I don't know, like things didn't go right with a girl. Just keeping busy, being productive, and not just thinking about everything will do wonders for your mental health.
Do you think, through you saying that, I just had a random thought, but would it be fair to say that it's important to obviously dive into yourself, dive within your emotions and your feelings to figure out why you're feeling that way? But once you've done that, and once you've come to a conclusion, to then put it aside and not revisit it. If you keep revisiting them over and over again, that's where the problems lie.
Probably, yeah.
So I don't know if you've probably had a lot of those thoughts previously before, but you might think of them over and over again, and is that more what you're referring to?
Yeah, probably. And just overthinking things and just maybe attributing meaning to things that didn't have meaning. Yeah, so like an interaction that I've had with someone where they didn't mean to be rude or whatever, or talk me down, or I don't know, just an example, I can't think of anything. But they might have just said something offhanded. And I know I've said things that probably sounded rude that I would never have meant to have said to somebody before. So, I mean, just also having clarity around that is really important. But I remember there's a really poignant expression once. Somebody said, I can't remember who, but it says, the danger with depression is that it masks itself as rational thought. So you can sort of be talking poorly to yourself over a period of time, and you will think that it's rational thought. Yeah. But instead it's your psyche. You've like worn yourself down over such an extended period of time that you think you're talking sense. Yeah. But if you said them out loud to someone, as I have in the past, they'll be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" So it's just important to To not
So
get
maybe
bogged down with
a
that.
good takeaway point is talk to a mate.
Yeah.
Talk to a mate, discuss these things, do your best to analyse it, but then also try to have a relationship with somebody within your circle, whether it's, it doesn't need to be a mate, it can be a parent, it can be anybody, but try to have someone that you can be completely honest with and really break down these with them and get their touching point. Because I think, and it needs to be someone you trust as well, but I think that's another good point as well to add to this.
And one thing that doesn't get said much in this whole mental health discussion is like that's the hardest thing to do, to actually talk to someone.
Yeah, for sure.
Because generally speaking, people who have poor mental health or depression or whatever do not feel like they're worth getting better.
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest issue that faces them. So it's like, why would I bother being proactive to have this conversation? There's no point.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worth it.
Yeah.
That can be very difficult for people. So I guess if you're on the other side of it, you're a friend of someone who, like, that's the thing as well. With depression, it's so hard to detect. Like, there's so many people that are, like, I've heard of so many stories of people who, like, kill themselves and people are like, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the fucking hardest thing about it, I guess. But I mean, it kind of touches on my next point, but we'll skip back to it. But I was going to say, if you're a friend, like, one thing I like, and our friendship groups like this, don't be too proud or shy to, like, just pay someone a compliment or just build them up a little bit. And I think that's something our friendship group's always been good at.
Yeah, yeah.
If we think something good about someone, we just tell them.
Yeah.
Whereas I can think of other friendship groups that have A, been a part of, or B, just witness, that they would just fucking rip on each other all the time.
I've noticed that as well. Like, there are friendship groups and, like, the whole banter is just chipping each other out. And I have never been one to get, like, I don't get around that at all. Like, I would rather spend my time joking with my mates in not a way that's going to make anyone feel shit and, like, boosting them up. Giving them compliments, telling them, like, you know, get involved in the gym and saying to each other, like, man, you're looking swole. Like, there's no shame in that. Like, it's not...
Man, you are hung.
That's a bit weird. But, like, there's nothing wrong with really giving your mates a good compliment. Like, it's... Yeah. You should want to bring your mates up. You don't want to drag them down. You want to boost them up. You want them to feel good, and the circle will continue, and then they'll give it to you, and then it's just a healthy relationship.
Like I said, the best way you can be is to overrate yourself by 10%, I reckon.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And just, I think somebody as well, another quote, like, I'm randomly attributing to someone, like, fuck knows who said all this shit, but another great quote is, the key to confidence is walking to a room and assuming everyone likes you. Yeah. And the hardest part is obviously to convince yourself that. But if you think everyone likes you, and it's the same at work, like, for me, like, once I felt like I'd earned people's respect, I got so much better at being a supervisor because I just felt confident. Sure. Whereas when I started, I was like, these guys that I'm all the boss of have, like, they know more than I do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That is an interesting, like, it's just an interesting discussion because I've never, like, my typical attributes, like, the pure core of who I am is, like, confident, outgoing, and, like, so I've never had a problem with not feeling confident. Yeah. I've never had a problem with those sort of, although, like, there has been times where my mental health hasn't been the best. I can't say that I've ever thought I wasn't worth it or ever thought little of myself. I always knew what I was. I think where mine comes from is I know what I'm capable of, or I know what I think I'm capable of, and I'm willing to push myself to serious lengths to prove that to myself. Yeah. And when I feel like I'm stuck and I'm not doing what I feel like is the best move for me, and I'm not utilising my abilities to the best of the ability, and I feel like I'm being undervalued and underused, that's where I get feel a bit shit.
It's quite interesting. We've got completely different perspectives on it, and it's probably good for people watching and listening because half the people can probably relate to what you're saying. Half the people can probably relate to what I'm saying. So, it's interesting. We're quite opposite in that respect. Yeah. But yeah. Fuck, enough rambling on. What else we got, Dill?
So yeah, my fourth point was be grateful, and this is another big Gary Vee thing.
He uses it every day.
He does. I like it, and he talks about the 1 in 4 trillion. So the statistical odds, and I literally googled this before, so anyone can fact check me if you want. But the statistical odds.
Google search was run before.
I did my research. I did my homework. But the statistical odds of you being born are about 1 in a trillion. Of you being the one sperm that hits that egg first.
Wasn't it 400 trillion?
Sorry, what did I say?
You said a trillion.
Oh, sorry, it's 1 in 400.
You can fact check me if you want.
No, it doesn't mean that I've got to say it right. But 1 in 400 trillion. So I think that's a huge point. And this is one thing that people laugh at me, but I literally do it. So we have reclining couches at our house, And every night I'll sit on my reclining couch, and it's probably the one moment that I take out to really appreciate, because I just think to myself, how many 21, oh my God, how many 26-year-olds in the world can sit at their own home in their recliner couch watching like NBA on Apple TV?
People in Australia will probably listen to be like, oh, that's kind of common, but like in America, that's not common. Like,
yeah.
And like the rest of the fucking third world, that's
exactly.
not common.
And you think about the poverty that's out there. Like, I am truly blessed. I eat good food. I get to lie down. I relax. I lie down on a reclining couch. I have a good job. I'm really am blessed. And so I think that is just a huge thing to plan. Is just always remember how blessed you are, and be grateful for those blessings.
Very true. I saw a Gary Vee clip the other day where he's talking to someone who can't figure out what they want to do with their life, and he's like, the first thing you need to do is, where do you think you sit on a ranking of people from 1 to 7.7 billion or whatever it is? Where do you think you sit? And the answer would have been probably fucking top 5%, just for the fact that he lived in America, went to college, blah, blah, blah. Like, you just compare it to anyone in Africa. Yeah. We've probably got it better.
And like the slums in India and things like that. Like,
anyone in Africa is that's quite a disrespectful thing I said. No, but generally, what I mean is the standard of living, obviously, in Australia or whatever country you live in, is going to be so much higher. And I, at the risk of making this dark again, because we've gone pretty dark on this potty, but for me, like, I lost my mother when I was 23. And the way I got through that, and my dad had the exact same attitude, is think of all the people who fucking either had shit parents their whole life, or I've met so many people whose like mum killed themselves at a similar age or died when they were like 5. Yeah. Like, I can fucking name so many people who have it worse than me. Yeah. So I'm one thing I never felt through losing mum was like a victim, especially like her childhood was fucking rough as well. So yeah, I'm big on gratitude, and once you really lock into that, there's nothing worse than meeting someone who's got a bit of a shit life and just goes on about it all the time. Yeah. Or just like, just relationship dramas, and you can just feel that victim mindset coming out of them all the time. It's just such an unattractive thing. Yeah,
so. and that will never get you anywhere as well. Playing the victim never does anything for you.
All right, I think I've only got like one more point. Oh, I got a couple, but they're pretty minor. Actually, no, I've got a few. All right, this ties into what I kind of already touched on, is just to say everything while you can. And I think I said it last potty as well. Not to go on about it too much, but obviously I lost my mother, and in the ensuing months, all I could think about was all the things that I didn't say, and like obviously while you're grieving, different things go in your head. But I was just like, did she know how much I loved her and stuff like that? Which if anyone else said that to me and I was giving them advice, I'd be like, of course she knew. Yeah. But those are the things that go through your head. So I guess, and I've talked about it as well, like I'm more open and loving with my dad as a result. And like I said about friends as well, paying them compliments, or not even compliments, just expressing to them how much they mean to you. Because you never know, like somebody could be fucking suicidal. Yep. And it could be the last thing you say to them. So I know that's really fucking heavy advice for this podcast.
It's true though.
But it is something I'm a big believer in. So always err on the side of being kind and expressing what you mean, because worst case scenario, like you just pay them a compliment you didn't really mean. Yeah. So yeah, that's all I've really got on that one. Yeah. No, I guess mine ties into that as well. And it's, I've just got be kind. And then in brackets, I've got being a good bloke will get you further than being a dick. And I think that's really true as well. I think if you're a dick to every person that you come across, I really think that like maybe you might get away with it at primary school, you might get away with it at high school, but I really think that stuff really catches up with you in the end. Yeah. And I think you get into like not even the later stages of your life. I want to say like the later stages of like your 20s, like maybe your early 30s, and then you start to get like a really bad reputation of just being an arsehole. And people don't want to deal with you, people don't want to know you. It can lead to a very lonely existence. So I think like just generally being kind is a good one that I would go back and I would instill in my 20-year-old self to make sure that you are still kind. I don't think I was ever a dick to anybody, but I would still make sure it's a point that I'd say. I remember when I was 19, when I graduated high school at 18 and then moved home at 19 to here. And because I was in a relationship with a girl for like 3 years, And then, everyone started flying home to their respective countries because this was in the Middle East. Everyone was from a different country. So when you graduate, everyone moves home, broke up with a girlfriend. And there was this moment where I was sitting there, but virtually no friends, and my girlfriend had moved away. And I can't remember what it was, but I think there was this kid at school, and I hate to say that I ever bullied someone. I never bullied someone in an overt way, but I kind of would. Do you know what I'm like? I'm like a prankster or a jokester.
Yeah,
and there was one guy who probably copped it more than anyone.
Yeah.
And I noticed that he had unfollowed me on Facebook or unfriended me on Facebook, and that really hit me hard. I was like, so here I am, just graduated, no girlfriend, no friends, and I have to start a new life. And then there's my legacy, or part of my legacy is this one bloke who probably had a really shit, I don't want to exaggerate it, but probably had a shit time at high school at times because of me.
Yep.
And that really hit home for me. And since then, I've always tried to be a nice person at the very least. There's definitely different levels of being a good person.
Yeah.
Being nice is just one of them.
Yeah.
But that's something I've always really tried to do, trying to leave a legacy of at least being a kind person, which is something we talked about in the last pod as well.
For sure, yeah. Did you have another point?
I did, and then my phone texted. The one thing I like is I watched the movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey.
Yeah, cool.
When I was young. Good movie.
Yeah.
Really simple point. I'm an introverted person. My natural instinct is to say no to opportunities and stuff like that. I remember as a kid, whenever a new kid that I'd never hung out with outside of school wanted to hang out, I was just like, ugh, no. But purely just for no reason. It was just that I hadn't mentally prepared. For, maybe I'm on the autism spectrum or something like that. Where I hate change, which is that's a big thing I need to get through as well. But that's another piece of advice, actually. Just sort of get better at coping with change if you're not good at it. But anyway, Yes Man, basically, just free yourself up so that you're not the sort of person who says no to every opportunity. You don't have to take it literally and say yes to absolutely everything. You don't have to go...
Like Jim Carrey did.
Yeah, in the movie, it's quite a literal adaptation, but I think that's a really good way to put yourself in position and, meet good people. There's so many people who, meet their wife or husband or, meet some of their best friends or, get a great opportunity simply because they said yes to some minor opportunity.
Yeah. And I think to that point, just being open-minded, considering everything and giving everything a go. Don't be shy, don't be afraid, just crack in and get to it. Which sort of I think might semi ties into my next point, not really, but in a sense.
Seamless.
Yeah, that was whatever.
I guess it ties into my next point, not really at all.
Well, I guess I looked at it and I was like, I get a little bit, and then the more I thought about it, it doesn't. Anyway, we've talked about it too much already.
Yeah.
Nothing beats work ethic, and I heavily believe this. Being a person that some might say I was at a disadvantage in some aspects of life, being dyslexic. A lot of my childhood was filled with tests of am I ADHD, am I ADD? Doctors wanted to put me on medications for those things. My parents really did a lot trying to figure out why I was struggling at school so hard. But the one thing they always instilled in me was hard work and work ethic. So I think if you would ask me the one thing that got me to the point I am today, and I would consider myself a success, I would say that I've done well given the cards that I was given. And I would easily pin it all back down to hard work. I think my work ethic is something that no one could ever take away from me. And I think it's the one thing that if anybody was really wanting to challenge me on anything, I think I would beat them purely on my hard work and my work ethic. And that's also the confidence in me in saying that. But I believe that if you can't say it out, I guess confidently, you're not going to go through with it anyway. So Kevin Durant has a quote, and it's hard work beats talent when talent fails to work hard, which is really true as well. So I think your work ethic will get you everywhere, and your talent may open the door for it. But again, your work ethic will get you it. Yeah.
Do you think work ethic is something that's trained or taught? Sorry, no, that's the same thing. Taught, or is it inherent?
Yeah.
Do you think?
It's a good question. I don't know. I've always had like I said, I've always had that competitiveness in me, and I've always had that pure drive. So I think that was just one thing. If I ever felt some sense of competition, I was willing to grit my teeth a little bit harder and get through things a little bit harder than what other people might have. But I definitely think it's something that you can work on for sure. Yeah, I don't think it's all doom and gloom if you're not naturally just a hardworking person. I think, yeah, I guess to the point that we made at the very start of the podcast, just being self-aware and knowing that you're not that person, and then saying like, yeah, and telling yourself like, I need to work hard right now. Like there's no other option.
I think the trick is as well to find like the motivation, but the responsibility is on you to find that yourself. Like for me, I think like I was the youngest and a fairly privileged kid, so like I wouldn't say that I really had to grind too much in my childhood, other than the fact that all the people in my family were very hard workers. Mm-hmm. So I inherently, or like not inherently, but like maybe I just sort of subconsciously picked up on that.
Yeah. But
for uni, I've said this before, I kind of like skated through it, like I coasted, and I just did enough to get by. And in a way, I actually think that was, that was kind of a good achievement in the sense that I was something I never really threw myself at, but I just did enough. And I think I'm not a perfectionist. I'll never strive for stuff that especially if I'm not passionate about it. But the fact that I did enough to get by with less effort, I guess I'm kind of, I don't want to say I'm proud of it because it's a bit lame, but I guess what a point I'm trying to make is when I'm passionate about something, I zero in on it.
Yeah.
Like, again, maybe I'm on the autistic spectrum, but I literally just get tunnel vision. So for instance, like True Footy, I've worked so much harder on that than I worked on my degree.
Yeah.
And, you know, stuff when I was younger as well, like little creative projects, I would just annihilate it. I had to use a popular term on here. I just fucking annihilate it. and just throw everything at it. And at work as well, I describe my work ethic as good, but there's definitely periods of my life where it probably hasn't been great. So I don't know. I guess it's just about trying to find that motivation for yourself.
Yeah. I just think work ethic takes no talent. Like it doesn't take it. It's not a talent to have a work ethic. Like work ethic comes from, again, like having the motivation, which I think also leads into like having a why. Like if you really know why you want to do something, like for you, True Footy was like there's your why was like your career. Like why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Because you love it and it's a career. So and maybe uni, maybe your why was a little bit soft. Maybe your why was like because your parents, you thought it would be, if you thought it would make your parents proud, and like maybe. And that's not going to affect you. That's not going to give you pure motivation as much.
100%. I think you nailed it. I think the fact that I didn't need to exceed, I just needed to get it done. That was my attitude, and that's all I did.
Because my uni life was very different. Because I had, like when I decided I was going to go to uni, that was like a huge step for me. That was like that was like a going against all odds type of situation.
Yeah.
To the point where my parents didn't want me to go to university.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
My dad said to me, he's like, I don't want you throwing away a trade to try this uni stuff. Like you hated school, you weren't good at school, we don't see why you'd want to go there and why you'd want to put yourself through that. And it just came down to me saying like, look, I'm going to do this. Like I really feel I know I can do it, and that was purely because I didn't think I was like talented. I didn't think I could just skate through it. Like I know I can do this, but I knew I could do it because I knew my work ethic and I knew what I put into things. And when I say I want to do something, and again I like you said, you zero into it, I know that I can do things at a maybe not at a high level, but like I definitely work at things at a high level. And I spent a lot of hard work at uni and only got average grades. Like I only finished with like a 64 GPA.
Yeah.
But like that's a hard GPA, like 64. Like I'm proud of that. So again, different to your experience, but to tie it all back in, nothing beats hard work and nothing beats your work ethic. So make sure you've got that.
Well said. Yeah, it's hard to imagine anyone getting far in any field without working hard. All the people that you see that are at the top of their field worked fucking harder than you did.
Exactly.
And that was my attitude with True Footy. I've never felt like I was the best at it, but for a while I was probably outworking 95% of the community, like people doing it. And I think, like you look at people who start channels and then get to a certain level and stop.
Yeah.
I was determined to get past that point.
Yeah.
Maybe now I've stagnated a little bit, but there's no doubt that I got it to where it is simply because I worked harder. Definitely not because I was actually better at it than anyone else.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's good.
Do you have any relationship advice? Because I've got a little one.
Damn. I'm not very good at relationships. I mean, I've only had one, and that was from the age of 16 to 21. Since 21, I've been completely single. But
what's your attitude, I guess, then? If somebody's asking you as a young man who's like 20...
And they're interested in getting in a relationship?
Or just with women in general, do you have any advice, I guess? I've really put you on the spot here.
Yeah.
We didn't plan this at all.
I'm just trying to think. Do you want to give me yours? And I might be able to...
I've really only got one, and that's something my dad always said to me. I remember I went through a breakup when I was about 17 or 18. Just a really sad breakup with this girl who moved overseas. And my dad said to me, he's like, the worst thing you can do is meet the right person too early. Yeah. And I was like, cool. That just made me feel fucking sad.
So you're saying she's the right person?
Yeah, that was exactly what my thought process was. But I think it really rings true, and I think it's probably a little bit of a case of me and my recent breakup as well. Probably was the right person, just the wrong stage of life, and I think it's just important to be aware of that. And unfortunately, there's not too much you can do about it. It's not really actionable advice.
Yeah.
But sometimes it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I guess mine would just be communication. Like, communication just seems to be everything in a relationship. And then I think just being honest. Like if you don't want a relationship with a girl, like, tell her that, and things will play out way better if you told her that from the start, instead of maybe telling her otherwise because you think it might work for the initial stage, but then you never really wanted it, but you're just saying that because that's what they want to hear. Like, I think if you're just honest and communicate things earlier, I think they play out way better than maybe, I'm not saying lying, but maybe some truths are a little bit fabricated.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm big on, actually, now you just reminded me, but I hate people who play games in relationships.
Yeah.
And, like, I understand to an extent you got to do it. Like, there are people who do it a little bit just to make someone a little bit more interested in them, like, fucking whatever.
Yeah.
But I've seen and I've been part of situations where two people like each other, but they're too busy playing the fucking game, and both of them just end up upset and sad and never end up with each other. I've seen that so many times. So I guess my point there is, like, I wish people would be more upfront and honest about whether, like, if you like someone, just be honest about it. And I reckon I'm directing more of that at girls. Girls are worse at playing the game. Guys are far more likely to just be upfront and be like, hey, I like you. And I guess that's the social norm of guys chase girls. Yeah. So the guy's not going to play as hard to get. I get that. But I don't know. If you want something, just be honest with yourself and don't get ego in the way, I guess.
No, fair point.
Yeah.
Fair point. Well, I've only got 1 point left. And it's funny because I literally thought of it halfway through this podcast, but then we had I don't even know, like a guest speaker at our graduation.
Okay.
And he said something that, like, I will never forget. It hit me so hard. And it was, basically it ties into momentum. So the most powerful thing in the world, in the universe, is momentum. And what I mean by this is, if you're a person that has just come out of school and you don't know what to do, if you're a person that has graduated university and you don't know what to do, if you're a person that is in a dead-end job and you don't know what to do, if you're in any situation and you're not sure what to do, you don't know what your best next move is, do anything. Do anything. Any job is better than no job. Literally just pick anything and just do that. Just keep the momentum going. Don't ever sit and be stagnant. Don't ever let time catch up with you. Just keep things moving, keep things rolling. Things will fall into place and things will happen. I felt this when I finished university, and I didn't think of this when I was doing it, but then looking back, that's exactly what I did. Was I come out of university, I didn't have a graduate job. So what did I do? I worked 2 jobs and I just kept my momentum going. I moved as much as possible. I tried to, as many hours in a day as I could be that were making money, like billable hours. I made sure I was going to have the most amount. It was from 7 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. at night. I was making money. I was just moving constantly. My momentum was so fast and clicking along at such a high speed that eventually things fell into place, and boom, this perfect graduate job, literally perfect job that I've never seen. Like, out of all the jobs that I applied for, I think I looked on my LinkedIn, I applied for 54 jobs.
Yeah, right.
And none of them were as good as the job that I ended up landing. And this job was a job that wasn't advertised. It just sort of, like, all these things are sort of lined up and boom, 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 boom. Next thing I know, I got this job offer. So I really believe in momentum. Don't sit, don't be stagnant. If you're not sure what to do, just do something.
I like that. That's really good. You've actually reminded me of one as well, which is kind of closely related for 2 reasons. Because I think I saw, was it Tim Minchin? Is that his name? Tim Minchin did a graduation speech. He was the guest speaker, and he had like 7 pieces of advice or whatever. One of them was to be micro ambitious. So what that means is, don't necessarily, I think you can set yourself up to fail if you have this grand plan of, here's where I am now, and then necessarily, like, say by 30 I want to have a car, a house, and a wife or whatever like that, or a husband. But, like, I think that can set you up to fail if you're not that way inclined. But setting yourself short-term goals and just being like micro-ambitious, just full on in the pursuit of those, and then moving from one to the other, and like you say, keeping up momentum. I think that is really, really good, especially for someone who doesn't know what they want to do in life. So for me, it was starting YouTube to see, I don't know where this looks like in 12 months from now, but I just started it, and here I am still loving it. But I think that's a really good piece of advice. Save for a trip in 12 months post-COVID, and then do that, and then see where you're at after that, set a new goal. I think that's really, really good.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm big on goal setting and setting small goals and just knocking them out. Not setting that, like you said, that huge home run, but like setting up these small goals that might be minor goals.
You can do both, I guess. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a big plan. But if you set steps, I think that's a lot better and more attainable. Yeah.
And I think it also works into being flexible, which goes into
stretching.
Opportunities will come when you least expect them. And I think you need to have a mind frame where you can knock out these little goals, and then there's opportunity come that you might have never even considered. And you need to have a mindset that can allow you to potentially take that, and then everything switches, and now you're knocking out new goals. And just having that flexibility and that fluidity to be able to move with the punches and knock out goals as you're going, and be setting those micro small goals, which eventually will lead, when you look back after 10 years, you would have had all these goals that you've knocked out, and you would have moved so far instead of obsessing maybe over that one little thing. I think that's actually really true, and that's something that I do as well. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that fed into that.
Yeah, that was good. Well, I think we've probably hit them all, eh? Yeah. I don't know if there's any you want to add. I was going to say we've got a couple of questions, but was there anything else you wanted to?
No, let's roll some questions. We might think of some things between now and then.
Some of the questions were a little disappointing this week. I must admit there was 4 joke ones.
we can skip
which
those.
Is fine. Nah, I appreciate it, guys. What was I going to say? There was probably only one. Well, there's 2. Backyard Charizard, friend of the channel, doesn't have a question, but he just says, make sure you can remember them. That's his advice for your 20s. So because the body's called lessons from your 20s.
Yeah. Make sure you remember them. Fair.
Yeah, fuck. You must have got really blackout if you don't remember them.
Yeah.
But Mitch Ryan has probably the best question, and the only question I think we're going to bother with. What does he say? In 5 years, where do you want to be? Asks Mitchy Ryan. Get around his AFL channel. So in 5 years, we're 26 now. What do you want your life to look like?
Well, and this sort of feeds into what we were saying before. So again, I don't really set big goals. I don't have like the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan. I have small plans along the way. And once I took this grad job, my goal was to become a licensed valuer. So that's what this whole grad job is about. I'm working towards that. I'm a year in. I got another year to go. Once I am a licensed valuer, I'll again sit down, reassess, and set a new goal, and try and smash that goal out as well. And try and keep my flexibility. I don't want to close myself up for potential opportunities that might arise later. I want to be a person that, if something comes up, I want to have the ability to be able to take them at no notice, basically.
I like it. That's good, man.
What was your answer?
I probably only really want to think about, I think if I'm doing YouTube, maybe not full time, but predominantly as my source of income in 5 years, that would be a big achievement.
Cool.
And would have liked to have travelled a fair bit in that 5 years.
Yeah,
post COVID, but
I wish I said that. That's huge for me as well.
Yeah.
I want to do a lot more travelling. I said in previous podcasts, I sort of spent the first half of my 20s really career ambitious, and anytime some sort of travelling came up, I just couldn't bring myself to do it because I had too many things going on. I had to finish an apprenticeship, and I remember I booked a Bali trip, which ended up landing on my last TAFE block, which would have extended my apprenticeship for a full year. Yeah, and I wasn't going to do that. I was like, no, I'm finishing this as soon as I can. And then going to uni, we're out here living by ourselves. I mean, I'm not going to say my parents don't do anything for me, because they definitely do help me out, but I am self-sufficient to the most part.
Yeah.
So, uni holidays coming up and just being able to jet off anywhere, like kids that are born here that live with their parents might be able to do, definitely was an option for us. We were flat broke because we were spending our money on rent and food and bills. So now that I've sort of worked into a pretty comfortable rhythm with doing my grad job, I definitely want to start spending some more time traveling and building up those experiences for my 20s so that I can look back and have something cool to talk about.
That's it, man. We've got a big 5 years ahead of us. That's
a lot of things I want to
a
do.
lot of memories to make, I guess. You don't want to waste this little period.
No.
Like I said, we've finished uni, got more money than we've ever had. This is the time to do it.
Yeah.
But, the camera's about to run out, so we should probably wind up the potty deal.
Yeah.
Thought we went well.
No, it was good.
Yeah. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for watching. Get around us on on YouTube. That's the only place where you can find us right now. We will be on iTunes and Spotify. And follow us on Insta because that will be posting the clips and stuff like that. But also, you can fire away questions at us as well. But yeah.
And hit us in the DMs.
Yeah, right in the DMs.
Yeah.
And then hit us in the NUTs.
All right.
See you guys.
Appreciate it.
Bye.